You know, some men see war as a duty. For others, it's a tragedy. But for one particular general, it was something else entirely. It was an art form, a passion. He wasn't just a commander on the battlefield. He was a storm, a force of nature that terrified his enemies. And, let's be honest, often his own superiors. We're talking, of course, about General George S. Patton.
And that lands us on the big question, the one that still kinda haunts his legacy today. Was this man a once-in-a-generation military genius, whose brutal, sheer effectiveness was exactly what the Allies needed to win? Or was he a reckless madman, obsessed with victory at any cost, a guy whose controversies almost cost him everything? Well, that's what we're gonna dig into.
So to really get a handle on the general, you have to go back, way back. You have to understand the boy. See, Patton wasn't just made on the battlefields of World War II. He was forged decades earlier by this deep, almost fanatical obsession with military history.
This timeline, man, it shows a person who is basically purpose-built for war. Born into a military dynasty in 1885, going to West Point was pretty much his destiny. But it's the other stuff here that really shows his character. Competing in the Olympics in 1912, that wasn't just a hobby. No, that was a display of his obsession with physical perfection. And by 1918, he's in World War I, commanding troops, getting wounded, finally getting to practice the brutal art he'd spent his whole life studying.
And this one fact right here, this tells you everything. For him, war wasn't a career choice. I mean, think about it. As a kid, he wasn't just playing with toy soldiers. He was writing poetry about the glory of battle. He saw combat as this grand, epic stage, kind of like a scene from some ancient Greek tragedy, and he was absolutely determined to be the star of the show.
So, all this obsession, it all comes to a head in 1943 during the Allied invasion of Sicily. This is the moment. This is where the entire world saw both Patton's breathtaking brilliance and his shocking brutality, all on full display. This campaign would forge his legacy in fire.
His strategy in Sicily was just pure Patton: speed, aggression, and psychological warfare. While other commanders were being cautious, Patton's Third Army moved like lightning. He used these flanking maneuvers and surprise attacks that didn't just break the enemy's lines, they broke their spirit. The sheer speed of his advance was something the Axis forces were just not prepared for.
But, and this is a huge but, that victory came at a price. You can see his whole philosophy laid bare in his own words here. The men as a whole are not brave. He truly believed that courage had to be forced out of them. And this belief led to the infamous slapping incident where he hit a soldier who was suffering from battle fatigue, what we'd now call PTSD. For Patton, fear wasn't a wound. Nope, it was cowardice. And that mindset, it won him battles for sure, but it cost him the trust of a lot of people.
So this leaves us with the central paradox of George S. Patton. How do we square these two things? How do you reconcile the tactical genius who could conquer territory in record time with the controversial leader who seemed to alienate almost everyone around him? Let's break it down.
On one side of the ledger, you've got the flat-out genius. His unprecedented speed probably saved countless lives in the long run. His aggressive tactics kept the enemy completely off balance, and his actions are credited with dramatically speeding up the liberation of France. But then, you look at the other side. He was constantly clashing with his Allied counterparts. This slapping incident became a massive scandal. His public statements were often incredibly reckless. And he was even temporarily removed from command. The very traits that made him great were also his greatest liabilities.
Which brings us to his legacy. After the war, how is this guy remembered? He's not exactly a hero in the traditional sense, but he's way too significant to be just a historical footnote. His place in history is, to this day, fiercely debated.
His impact on how wars are fought is just undeniable. You can see it right here. He proved that in the age of tanks and trucks, mechanized warfare, pure speed and relentless aggression could absolutely shatter an enemy's will to fight. His battlefield strategies aren't just history, they are still required reading at military academies all over the world. He literally wrote the book on modern armored warfare. And beyond that, his larger-than-life personality has cemented his place in pop culture through books and famous movies.
So that begs the question, right? If he was so instrumental to winning the war, why don't we celebrate him the same way we celebrate generals like Eisenhower, or even his British rival, Montgomery? Why isn't he on that same pedestal?
Well, I think the answer is actually pretty simple. History loves its heroes to be clean, to be simple figures without all these messy contradictions, and Patton was anything but simple. He was a storm. You can't tame a storm, you can't reason with it, you can only hope to point it in the right direction. He was impossible to control,
And because of that, he's impossible for history to just neatly categorize.